Hey guys, Dan Young here with Dan's Millionaire Code, and every week I bring to you a super mega Jedi, someone who is changing the universe. And the great thing about most of our guests is they've built huge empires from dirt, zero, broke, zero, dirt, sometimes homeless, okay? And so why do we do this podcast? To help you build your empire. So take notes, watch this over and over, and if you find value in this, please share it with your friends and loved ones. Today's guest is my friend and entrepreneurial force of nature, Ryan Bowen. He's been an entrepreneur since he was like super tiny. Before he even had a driver's license, he was like buying and selling cars, right? Maniac. In 1997, at a tender age of 20 years old, he saw the future, of employee drinking water, and where everyone was using these big bottle water machines. You remember those big water cooler machines, though? And then so he came out with a bottleless water system versus bottled water. He founded this company called Pure Water Solutions of America, which is the largest independent bottleless water company on the planet. So pretty amazing. What's up, bro?
How we doing, buddy?
Man, okay.
I'm excited to be here with you.
Dude, okay. So I got a few questions, and I have crazy ADD, so I may shift us around a little bit. But
sounds perfect.
But you've built a huge empire. I toured your manufacturing plant, and it's freaking great, and you got great people, and I'm just impressed.
Thank you.
We actually met on Instagram, right?
We did.
Yeah, so it was crazy. I saw your crazy stuff, some of my crazy stuff, and we interfaced. And then we actually found out we shared some common acquaintances and friends and things like that.
Lots of mutual friends.
Small world, though. And we both love scaling our insane companies that we have. So tell us where you came from, man, and what you built.
So basically, when I was raised by a single mother, and my dad actually passed away when I was 1. So I was raised by a very powerful woman, and she'd put us to sleep. She'd put us to sleep at night, and she'd actually stay up all night and type the newspaper. That's how she would pay the bills.
Whoa.
And so she is probably, the most powerful woman I've ever met in my life is my mother. And so, but that's all she could do. And we didn't want to, we didn't know how we were going to eat. So she would do whatever it took to give us whatever we could. So we ate lots of ramen noodles as kids. We ate lots of stuff like that. And I always just watched how hard she struggled. And it was just crazy that a woman could struggle that hard and still just, all she ever cared about was taking care of her kids, making sure her kids was taken care of. And so at the age of, we had to fight for everything as children. Mm-hmm. And I was the youngest of 7. Mm-hmm. And so dinner would come and basically everyone would eat, and I would have to fight to get whatever I could. So that made me become a fighter at a young age, and I actually got into a lot of street fights as a kid also.
You look like you can handle your own, man.
You're
like a Viking, bro.
I've been in lots of fights.
Yeah. And he wins them.
I've probably been in over 500. I've never lost one yet. So but we're not here for that. So I'll always remember my junior high school principal called me into his office one day, and after I'd been in a fight, and he says, "Ryan, what are you going to do when you grow up?" I says, "I'll guarantee you I'll either be a professional football player or I'll be rich." And he says, "I'll guarantee you'll never be nothing. You'll always be a piece of shit." Mr. Kilpack. I'll always remember that. And at that moment, I thought, you know what? Fuck this guy. I will. I'm gonna show him that I can make it. And I don't think you should ever tell any children that they're going to be a piece of shit, because we choose our destiny. Our minds are very powerful. Whatever we say we're going to do, we'll do.
Absolutely.
And so that was great, and it helped me a ton. So at the age of 12, 13, I started wholesaling cars on my mom's driveway. I wanted to help put food on the table and help the family. So I started wholesaling cars on the driveway, tinting windows on the cars, painting the rims, doing different things. I'd buy a car for $300, sell it for $1,000. Go buy 2 of them for $1,000, sell them for $5,000.
Whoa, dude.
And so by the time I was 16, I actually purchased myself a 69 Ford Bronco and a Porsche. So my cars, when I was 16, I had a 69 Ford Bronco and a Porsche. That's what I drove in high school, that I had bought with my own hard-earned money. Dude. And didn't ask Mom for a dime. I just went and bought them. And so all the kids thought that we had money when we definitely did not. We lived in a small town, Tooele, Utah. And it's definitely my home. I'll always claim Tooele. Tooele's a great spot.
I love Tooele. Tooele's got good rabbit hunting in the vicinity, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a lot of that. So, and I'd absolutely mastered the flipping cars by the age of 16. At the age of 18, I purchased my first house by myself. Couldn't have a co-signer because I didn't have one that could do it. So I went and purchased my first house at the age of 18. I was ready for the next chapter of my life. So I went to what I thought was the largest dealership in Utah, and I wanted to actually work at a dealership. You had to wait till you're 18. I want to start going to a dealership when I was 16, but you couldn't sell cars.
You got to be 18 to sell cars. You need some special permit or something, right?
You have to be 18.
Registered with the state or something.
Yeah. Back. I'm sure it's different now.
Yeah.
I'm getting older, but I waited till I was 18 to go work for a dealership. So I actually worked at what I thought was, the largest dealership in Utah, and I never sold a car. For 90 days, I didn't want to sell a car. Well, I didn't really care. I went there to study who was their number one and number two guy. I followed them everywhere they went and took notes. Everywhere these guys went. I just watched how they talked to people, what they said to people, everything about these guys. So that dealership probably thought I was just a piece of shit because I didn't really care. So I finally was ready to take it on myself. So I went to the dealership that I really wanted to work at anyways. I just wanted to go to the other one and study it. I promised the GM that I would be the number one sales guy within 3 months, guaranteed. I was the number one guy there from day one. And I sold more vehicles than anyone in the nation. I think the average car sales guy was average about 15 cars. I was average about 80.
Dude,
and so I was doing well. At 18, I was making probably $300,000 or $400,000. Holy man! So that was, and that's good money when you're 18 years old. So it was great. But I absolutely had mastered how to sell cars and what I had to do. But I was,
This is a man also, by the way. Tooele is it was a lot smaller town, but it's starting to grow, right? But it's way in the sticks. Like it's not like big city, guys in suits everywhere, right? I mean, it's way out there. And this is a kid who came from a small town though, and started really hustling.
I knew there was more. I knew there had to be more. But yeah, at our dealership, we move more vehicles than any other dealership in the nation. And my dealership was actually out in Tooele.
Whoa.
In Tooele, Utah. So what we did was we found a way to market, stuff like that. And we was having people fly in all day, all night. They would actually fly in, we'd pick them up at the airport, they'd come to Tooele, pick up their vehicle, and drive it. So mainly anyone on the West Coast was buying from our dealership in Tooele, Utah.
Whoa.
And
that's crazy.
It was absolutely perfect. But at the age of 20, I'd finally reached my goal of what I wanted to do in life, and I wanted to be a dad. So at the age of 20, I actually had my son on his way, and I was absolutely pumped. I was so excited. All I could think about was I had to be an amazing dad since I had never had a dad. My dad died when I was 1, so all I ever cared, I was so pumped just to be a dad. This was finally my time to show the world that I mean, to me, being a dad's bigger than anything in the world. I don't care how much money anyone's made, anything like that. Being a dad is everything. So the problem was I was working 14 hours a day at minimum. I just wouldn't let myself be number 2. I couldn't be number 2 at the dealership. I couldn't be number 2 in the nation. I had to be number 1.
Were you living there?
Pretty much. Well, if we opened at 9, I'd be there at 7. If we closed at 9, I'd be there till 11. So I just had to be number 1. And you're supposed to have a day off, but I didn't want to have a day off because I couldn't be number 2. And I'd actually, on Sundays, I'd go sit at the car lot, which is, you're not supposed to do that. But I'd go sit there, and anyone that came onto the lot, I would go talk to them. Just say, hey, I'm not working today. I just want to stop by. Any questions you have, I'd love to show you. And so Mondays was always my biggest day.
Yeah.
So a lot of people complain about Mondays. To me, thank God it's Monday, not thank God it's Friday. I actually love working. So, But I would sit there and talk to anyone, and we just absolutely crushed it on Mondays, and that.
So Sunday was your prospecting day.
Sunday was the day. Sunday was the day where
setting it up, right?
Setting it all up so we could have the best week ever.
Man, that's incredible, dude. So, at 20, in your bio, it says that you started noticing this bottled water problem, right? And you came up with bottleless.
So what happened with that was, I wanted to just figure out how I could be a dad. I wanted to figure out how I could be a dad and still make a ton of money. And so what I did was it was crazy. I had a guy that worked for a water company, in Utah, and he came in to buy a truck. And so as we was looking at his finances, stuff like that, I was like, wait, this guy's making over $200,000 a year selling water softeners. Okay, not what I do, but he was selling water softeners. So I could see there was money. And that's what got my brain turning of how can I, what do I do here? And so after he left, that's what got my brain finally turning was I looked over at my ugly ass bottled water cooler, and I looked at the bottle on top and thought, why would you have that ugly, disgusting bottle on top when you could run a line to the back of this, find a way to purify this machine, and get rid of all the bottles? We'd get rid of all the trucks driving there. We'd get rid of all the gas. We'd get rid of all the pain in the ass, lifting, storing, lugging, changing all these bottles.
It was a pain back in the day.
Yeah. And so what I did was I looked at my cooler, and I actually took the same line that you would plug into your refrigerator, and I plugged the line in the back, and I took the bottle off and capped it. I thought, wow, I've just found the future of drinking water. This is definitely the future.
Whoa.
And so I remember so what I did is I actually went and found an investor to help me at that point get the first coolers to the United States. And so I started selling those coolers. That was a long time ago, 25 years ago. So I started with just a bottleless cooler. It was ugly. We would take bottled water coolers, convert them into bottleless coolers, and it just started to take off.
Man.
And then who was the largest back in Utah back in the day, we won't say any names, but they actually reached out to me after I'd been in business for about a year and says, what are you doing? And I says, I'm kicking your ass is what we're doing. And I says, but I've got the future. I have the future here of drinking water.
Oh, man.
And he says, no, you have a fluke. It will go away. And so we continued. So about 5 years later, he called me and says, you're actually doing it. And I says, yeah, we're doing good. And he says, well, congratulations. I think it's a fluke and it's going to go away. And he called me November 5th, 2010 and says, you won. I go, what do you mean I won? He goes, I'm filing bankrupt. And so we took out who was the largest water company in the state, and they had filed bankrupt.
Wow.
So I don't consider that, well, we won. We did win.
Just by hard work, though.
By hard work. And
Yeah.
you always have to be to adapt. You have
You're
to
just
adapt.
minding your business, building your thing, right?
I'm doing my thing, and yeah. And so but even after that, I still wanted to you have to be ahead of everyone. And so from there, I actually invented a machine that did purified ice cubes. And so we had the purified ice. Ice want to always be ahead of everyone. And so we did ice on one side, hot water, cold water, room water on the other side.
You're getting me a whole bunch of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll be putting those in here on Monday.
Dude, that's incredible. So, man, but it's been 2.5 decades of hard work. So it's not overnight, right?
Definitely not overnight.
I went down to your office and I see your guys working hard. Your brother works there, right? Girlfriend works there. Everybody with mom works there.
Yep. You know what's awesome about that is, so for the first 20-something years, I didn't have any family. My mother would run my books because my mother is the most trusted woman in the world.
That's one of the first people I met in the building in the first 10 minutes is your mom.
Yeah.
And she's the nicest lady.
I'm pretty proud of my mom.
Yeah.
But so no one worked there for the first 20 years in family. And then what's happened was, besides mom would do the books at home sometimes, and she actually retired from her job, I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was all excited for her, went to her, celebration of her retiring, and life was great. And then about probably 9 months later, because she's the hardest worker I've ever met, I walked in one day and she was doing a resume. I go, what are you doing? What's going on? She goes, well, I think I'm going to go back and teach college. I'm bored.
Mm-hmm.
And so I says, no, if you're going to work for anyone, I would want you to work for me. I said, so I can I wanted to take care of my mother because she had done such amazing things for us. So I give her a huge salary, and she works part-time. And there's nothing better.
She seems pretty happy working there with
you. Yeah, she keeps our place running perfect. So
babysit you sometimes, you get out of line?
She definitely does that. And then my brother was a painter for probably 30 years. Mm-hmm. Absolutely hated it every day of his life. He
seemed pretty chipper when I saw him.
Yeah. And so finally we got him out of painting, and he's working in our warehouse and just doing a fantastic job.
That's great, dude.
So it's become more of a family business in the last couple of years.
So a lot of people think, I think we started our companies in similar times about 25 years ago,
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's all, Rosie and Lambos, right? And AMG G63s, right? We could drive. But can you tell us a story about your biggest ass whooping you've ever took? And what you learned from that, so you can maybe advise these guys and girls out there how they can prevent such ass kickings?
Well, I would say there's been a couple. So
let's talk about it.
Well, I would say the first one, I mean, this is going way back, but now I had my son, and everything was great, and I decided that I was a very good crazy driver. And so my dad died back when I was 1 in a Jeep rollover, okay? So when I was 1. So now my son's 1, I take my Toyota 4Runner out, and I rolled that. And we rolled 4 or 5 times. It ended up throwing me out, running me over, busting my head in half, and I actually died for a little while. So I went away. There is afterlife. I've seen it. I mean, I've seen the lights coming. I've seen my grandparents. So I've seen that there is afterlife. So that's the good part. But it broke my bones. It broke me up, messed me up pretty good. And I'll always remember. So right after brain surgery, I was laying there with all bandaged. I couldn't see, but I could hear around me. And I remember my son's mom walked in. And they had told her that, hey, Ryan will never be the same. He'll be a vegetable. He'll never be the same guy. And she walked in and whispered in my ear, hey, I'm moving on.
Oh, shit.
And so I remember sitting there thinking, the first thought in my head was, you freaking bitch. And so but I'm glad she did it, because if she wouldn't have done that, I probably would still be sitting there and I'd be eating my elbow, doing some things. That right there changed everything. So the minute that happened, I thought, okay, I will get better. And she left my son with my mother. And so while I'm getting better in the hospital, I was there for a few months, and my mother's couch, because I couldn't go to my house because I couldn't take care of myself, we had my son also. So my son got to watch all of it. And so that was probably one of the biggest hits. But I look at it as a blessing because it worked, and I raised my son on my own 100%. Mm-hmm. And my mother's always been right there, so she fought right there too. So she's been more.
So you raised your son 100%.
100%.
So
yep, my son was.
You had full time custody.
Full time. Yep.
That's awesome, dude.
Yep, and it's been absolutely perfect.
Does he chip off the old block?
Yeah, he lives in Hollywood, California right now, and trying to knock it out of the park in acting. So
that's cool.
Went to the U, graduated with 3.96.
Well, that's pretty high, man.
Yeah, did good.
I think my grade point average was like 1.4 or something.
It was at high school, or did you go to college?
I went a little bit of college, a little bit of high school. A little bit.
Yeah.
ADD, man.
Yeah, and I definitely did not have time to go to college. So I'm not saying college is bad, but it wouldn't have worked out for me. Oh, man. I had to start working. So
that's better sometimes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it better. I just couldn't sit in class, and nothing terrible with college if you're being a doctor, an accountant.
That's probably a good idea.
But man, it was like slave school. Sit there, be quiet, focus.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that's hard, man. So that ass kicking was pretty big. You said you had a second one. Is it a business related ass kicking?
Yes. So I would say number one for sure. That was number one with the getting in a car accident and telling me I'd be a vegetable and teaching myself how to walk again and all. Yeah, just that was some crazy shit. So I've done my water, like I said, since I was 19 years old. But I've always done things on the side. That's what entrepreneurs do. And so I'd started flipping houses. So I always flipped cars from age 12, 13 to 20. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll still do it a little bit here and there too. But by the age I was 21, 22, I had mastered, I thought, okay, flipping a home is identical to flipping a car. You just got to change a couple things, throw some paint, throw some carpet, throw some TLC, and you'll make money. And wow, so I made a lot of money in real estate investing, stuff like that. So back in 09 and 10, the years everyone talks about.
Oh, yes.
So I had lots of developments going, lots of big shit, not just one house. And I was right in the middle of building. And the banks, I don't blame anyone for anything, but the banks, I could call them and say, hey, I need $5 million tomorrow. They would just have it there. I mean, they just made things very easily because I had money in their accounts. And so 09, 010, right when the market crashed, they turned off all those loans. And I was like, no, we're right in the middle of building a bunch of homes. You can't do that.
Whoa.
And they says, we can do whatever we want. So I drained about, $6 or $7 million liquid that I had to make sure every house got finished. And so it sucks you're selling someone $1 million home for $400,000 because that's all they would pay in, 9, 10, 11. And I made sure I walked away perfect with everyone. But I lost a shit ton of money. I mean, I could have been retired easily at age 30. And this was it was a huge hit.
Ooh, that's a big hit, dude.
But once again,
but you survived.
Yeah, but once again, I don't give a shit. Basically, when it happened, I didn't care. I mean, did it suck for a minute? Sure, it sucked. But I thought, I've got the baddest water company in the world that can pull me out of anything. I still have my friends to this day crying about, well, what about 9 and 10? Who gives a shit? Move on.
Yeah, it's in the past.
Your mind is so powerful. Mm-hmm. And so I moved on. So I just thought, you know what? That's when I invented ice. Was right. I think 11 is when I started selling ice. So I thought, okay, let's just go with something different. And so that's when I just started cranking the water company even more, and it worked out just fine. But
that's incredible.
When people still real estate, everyone cries about the 9s and 10s. Who gives a shit?
They do, huh?
There's
and we
always
may be
a way.
having something like that in real estate coming up here in the next little bit, huh?
That we're definitely ready for that to happen.
Yeah. What does your crystal ball say about what's going to happen here in the next year or two?
What it says is, luckily, I've got a shit ton of liquid, and I'm going to have a blast.
Yeah.
With
Big
you.
sale coming up.
I think me and you are going to have some good times doing that together.
We'll do some cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
I think, guys, hey, I'm not a financial advisor, but my crystal ball, if it was functioning, would say there's probably going to be a lot of retail defaults in commercial real estate and residential defaults because of some people having some hard times, though. And it's funny, the crap cycle happens usually about every 10 years or so, right?
Yep.
Well, 2009-10, it's 2020, we're going to 21. It's about time for the crap real estate cycle soon, man.
Well, I think 9 and 10 is going to be a little sliver of what's going to happen now. Because that was nothing.
Yeah.
They're saying 40% of mortgages right now aren't being paid. 40 to 50% right now aren't being paid. So it's going to be bad. And it sucks for other people, but you got to get yourself ready. You got to be ready for everything at all times.
Yeah.
And that's probably what I've learned. And every time I've been hit, is you got to be ready.
Be ready.
So get ready. Always be ready for anything that could ever be hit.
How would you advise people be ready for the big sale?
Well, try to always keep as much liquid as possible.
Liquid cash.
Spend your money wisely. And I mean, even the day I met you, you're all, you should spend 10% on cars. I probably spent a little bit more than that on cars. I love cars, but
you got to live a little bit.
You got to live.
You could die taking a dump.
Yeah.
And have an aneurysm, right?
Yeah. Well, that's something I've always done too. This is what I did when I was younger. I'm not telling the world to do it, but what I did as a young kid was whenever I wanted something super nice, I'd go buy a $100,000 car, right? And people, I wouldn't care how I was going to pay for it. I just knew I was. And so I would always do shit first. I'd go buy the $3 or $4 million home because I knew I could pay for it. I just knew it would happen. Mm-hmm. And it makes me work harder. Mm-hmm. Actually, when I was driving here today, that's why I was almost late. I was on the phone with one of the top real estate agents in Utah, and he says, hey, I just want to call and tell you thank you. And I go, for what? He goes, well, 2 years ago, we was at lunch, and I was telling you I was thinking about buying this house that I thought was out of my reach, and you told me to quit being a pussy. And I bought that house. He goes, but you know what it's done for me? It's put me in with all my neighbors, and he's an LDS guy. So he said, it's put me in church. It's put me with all these guys, and so now I'm selling all of their homes.
Dude.
And what's happened was it's changed my income. It's quadrupled my income because you told me to quit being a pussy. And I went here and changed my whole life, and it's been absolutely amazing. And I was just like, that's awesome.
That's the courage of entrepreneurship is, we commit, and sometimes you jump off the cliff, you've heard, right? And then you build your airplane on the way down.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're pretty good at building airplanes really fast when you're about to hit the ground, right?
Yep.
So that courage is huge. I'm going to shift your gears a little bit. What other advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are thinking about starting a business in today's climate? What would you tell them they need to do?
I think our minds are the most powerful thing in the entire world ever. And this is America. No matter what happens with this election, no matter what happens at all, this is America. We can do anything. It's wide open. Just what's in your mind, only put good stuff in your mind. If people are negative in your life, get rid of them. If they're your family, don't talk, push them away. You don't need negative in your life. We need positive. We need happy energy. Positive energy is everything. I mean, that's what I did in 2020, because I kept a lot of my shit hidden for years. Mm-hmm. I think I told you that. I have, garages and all that full of just fancy, awesome, amazing cars. But I kept my stuff hidden until probably a year ago. I would drive it, no one would see it, and then I'd park it because I just didn't want to be known as that guy. And then I talked to some good people, and they're like, you've got the coolest shit anyone's ever seen. You probably should get it out there. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started doing more on Instagram, stuff like that, getting it out there. And my goals are everything. If you want to start a business, write down your goals. I don't think there's any more important than a written down goal. And so write it down. If you're not looking at it daily, it ain't going to happen. You have to have a goal. You have to have something you're trying to do. And so write it down. But my goal for 2020 was to reach out to other amazing people in Utah, because I've got friends all over the nation, but reach out to some amazing people in Utah. Put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. Go to lunch with them. Mm-hmm. Talk to them. And let's just start getting this positive, crazy energy all over the world. And it has. That's what brought me to you. That's what's brought me to some amazing people. So
that's what's going to save the world, though. I think the government can write as many checks and free handouts and all that, but that's just going to make people fat and lazy instead of home. It's going to be people who have this courage breakthrough of some of the things that you talked about, right? To jump off the cliff and build the airplane on the way down.
Yeah.
Because the innovation in doing things like creating ice with the bottleless and computers and all the stuff that we do, or whatever you may do, that's what's going to make the world better is production.
Yes.
Production is the key, right?
And free handouts will never do that.
No.
Free handouts don't do a dang thing.
Oh, man.
That's what we did with ice also, was how everyone did ice in the past was they would make you buy a brand new ice machine for 10 grand, right? Mm-hmm. Restaurants don't have 10 grand laying around. So what I did was I wanted to make it so everyone could have the right ice machine. The reason why they were breaking down, they didn't have the right purification going to it anyways, but they didn't know that and couldn't teach you that. So what I did is I wanted to reinvent the wheel. So I went and bought all these ice machines myself, and then I would go to all these restaurants and hospitals and marketing rooms and different things, and I would give them the ice machine they needed, that they had to have for their clients. And what we did was I ran the right purification to this.
Oh.
But what I would do is I would lease it to them.
Smart.
And so now they could pay $300 a month instead of $10,000 to $15,000. And when theirs broke, they'd throw it away and buy a new one. Mm-hmm. Mine, what I would do is I'm running the purification, I'm descaling, I'm doing everything, but you don't even need to descale if you have the right purification to it. Mm-hmm. And so we made it so every business in my states, Idaho, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona, could have what they need to run their business.
So with what you did, you made it affordable, low payments, so they have to drop 10 grand or whatever up front. And in a sense, while they're making those lease payments, you give them a lifetime warranty by maintenance and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then if the thing totally takes a dump, you just replace it?
I just bring a brand new one.
Well, then that's a no-brainer, right?
That's why we're the #1 company in the world.
Dude, right, dude?
So
you the man.
You had to just reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. And you always got to have your mind ready. And always, if you're putting the right energy out, it always comes back.
I want to summarize your super Jedi wisdom here because I took some notes here.
Okay.
Few things. Be ready is what you were teaching. Be ready by having liquidity in your cash, right?
Yes, sir.
So stash as much cash, and then when the bargains are there, you can go, right? Your mind is the most powerful thing, right? Only put good stuff in your brain, right?
Positive energy.
Happy energy, and write down your darn goals.
Yep.
Pretty simple.
And remember where you came from. Always remember where you came from. No matter where you go in life, remember where you started.
Yes.
I will always love my Tooele people. Tooele is home. And whenever I go out there, I'll pull up my Lamborghini to my high school friends' houses. And I'm not trying to brag. I'm just going out there, and I want them to, they could have it too.
Yeah.
Anyone can have anything.
Yes. This is beautiful, man. Let me ask you this. Where can people find you? What's the best place? Is it Instagram? Your Instagram's blown up.
Instagram's probably the best. Mine's just Mr. Ryan Bowen.
Mr. Ryan Bowen.
And, I don't care about giving my phone number, but you can probably just, Mr. Ryan Bowen's probably the best. Our website at the office is hydrateyouroffice.com.
Hydrateyouroffice.com.
And real estate wise, that's my main 2 gigs. I do a lot of hard money loans, stuff like that. I definitely.
Can people direct message you? Do you see those?
Yeah.
All right. So
definitely.
if they say, hey, what's up, bro? You see that?
I definitely see everything you send.
Dude, this is awesome. Dude, I appreciate you coming on. This is amazing stuff. Is there any last thoughts in your head, last pieces of wisdom you want to give the guys and gals out there?
Put good positive energy to the world, and it will give it right back to you.
Dude, I appreciate you coming on, dude. You're a stud. Guys, you've been watching Dan's Millionaire Code with Ryan Bowen. Watch this over and over. The advice that he gave you is just phenomenal. Follow him on Instagram, Mr. Ryan Bowen.
Mr. Ryan Bowen.
Mr. Ryan Bowen. Follow him on Instagram. His posts are ridiculous. I just got his Christmas card, and his photography on that is crazy. He's got his Lambo G-Wagon, the whole fam there looking really awesome. Definitely follow him on Instagram. Guys and girls, as you know, this is free, but I ask you to do 2 things. 1, execute, and if you find value, share it with friends and loved ones. You've been watching Dan's Millionaire Code. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks so much.